Hello and welcome back. In this video, we're going to be talking about form elements. What makes a good form, what elements are worth optimizing, what are worth trying out new things with, and just really kind of how to deal with your form layout altogether. So we'll talk a little bit about some data around forms and the conversion rate on those things, and then we'll give some pretty cool examples to take a look at. All right, so let's talk about the different types of form elements you can test. You can look at the number of form fields, okay? The required versus optional form field and whether you should have all required, all optional, or mixed bag. The single page form versus the multi-page form. That's always been a bit of a debate, and that can even go to carts. And in the e-commerce world, you have a single page cart or a multi-page cart. Step indicators obviously only come into play when there is a multi-page cart. The actual design of the cart itself, and then privacy policies, return policies, guarantees, anything that's in there that you can start really giving people to reduce anxiety. So first, let's look at form fields though. Like form fields matter, they do, but to a point, okay? So this was an Oracle study that showed the optimal number of fields was 7 is what they say here, but just look at the numbers a little bit here. If you're anywhere between 5 and 10, you're gonna see around the same conversion rate. Okay, there's obviously a crazy drop-off from one form field to 2, but mostly as you start getting into that multiple form layout, it's going to stay about the same from a conversion perspective. So I'd say if you're at the 5 to 10 mark, you're going to see a relatively around the same conversion rate. So it might not be the form fields themselves that's actually depressing conversion. It's likely something else, okay? And then also you can see there's this weird trend right at the end of this graph and really saying at 16 it goes up. And that's really that's probably for higher end lead generation campaigns where if you have that many fields, the person's going through it. Like they've made it that far, they're going to continue. So that's where the downward trend stops to peak, is once you're getting into the 16 plus area. So I just really wanted to show you this slide first because I had another slide I was on LinkedIn, and this really bugged me when I saw this post, which said, marketing fact, okay? There's a 5% decrease in form completions for every form field you add, okay? This type of thinking is all wrong. Less is not always more. And I'll actually have a case study. The next 2 case studies are actually going to show you that. All right, so this is a number of form fields test on a site called KinderCare. And KinderCare's optimization team is probably one of the best in the country, maybe the world. They're amazing. They're always testing things, but always testing smart things. And this one I think is amazing, okay? Not because of just how they put it together, but also how they analyzed the data after. I think anybody that was new to testing might have maybe drop the ball on this one. So this is a straight number of fields test. There's all these form fields, and the other one there's a clear just comments or questions, open-ended piece. Not required, just open-ended. All right? But what happened was there was no difference between the number of forms that were submitted. Both variations got the same number of forms, but the extra field increased lead quality. So people that actually filled in that form field actually would be at a higher lead level. So by having that there, knowing that it's not depressing conversion, adding another form field, they're actually increasing their lead quality, all right? So remember that thing I just showed you that said marketing fact, 5%, what is it? It drops 5, your conversion rate drops 5% for every form field. This is clearly saying that that's not a marketing fact. And here's another one. This is another number of fields test that I think is phenomenal, where they have, and this was actually run by Conversion XL's agency, a really cool test that they ran. And they had multiple form fields of choose your job, your state, your driving experience, and then email versus just email. And this was actually a 5-step form. And so this was the start to the 5-step form. And the results were that having more form fields actually saw a 31.3% lift in opt-ins at a 95%. And that's the completion of the 5 steps. At each step level, even at that initial step level, having more form fields beat out the 1. Because the 1 just didn't really fit the need of the people there. These were men looking for trucker jobs. And what's just putting my email out there going to get me? They don't know what state I'm in. They don't know what my experience is. They don't know what I'm interested in. they think they're just getting onto a spam list. And that totally makes sense. So if you're just asking for email, you might be actually missing out on some things as well. So there might be more opportunity from a lead quality perspective to start taking a look at. So just keep that in mind, that just because we are told less is more from a form field perspective doesn't mean we can't push the boundaries to see what we're allowed to do. Okay, we're doing that ourselves. And finally, I think it's important to bring out this is inline form validations. Right? This is something that if you have forms, try to actually implement this, because studies show that inline form validation regularly increases form success rate, decreases errors, increases satisfaction, and decreases completion time. All right, and it's as simple as adding a little, tick, it's done, versus X, it's broken, rather than having them try to submit a form, get an error, do it again. This will just save a lot of headaches, and I'm glad to see more often than not most sites now do this. If you're not, you're probably behind the times, and it's now a good time to start thinking about that. All right, so that's it in terms of the elements that I like to test and I think have really moved the needle. I hope that you got something from this and aren't just going to start testing these without applying it. Remember, always apply first, please, please, please. And yeah, I can't wait to see the tests you guys come up with after we finish the course. So in the next section, we're going to start talking about how to take these elements you come up with and build a hypothesis. So we've done all the data gathering. This is the end of gathering data. We've done it. We've gathered the data, we've analyzed it, and we've come up with an element that we think will actually move the needle. And so now we need to articulate this. And that's all a hypothesis is, and we're going to be talking about that in the next section.